Hello everyone, welcome back. So another week's in the books, and this weekend we actually spent the majority of our time, if not all of it, outside of the workshop, and there's a reason for that, which I'll explain now. If you follow our Facebook page, during the week you would have seen that we received a photo from one of our Facebook followers. It was a photo of a carbon trim. Now, we weren't 100% sure what it was, and the person that sent it to us has been following the page, and they said that they had it stored away in a loft and they believe that it came off a GSR or FTR Falcon over 20 years ago. And the photos that we've been putting up of the dashboard of FTR3 taken in the early 2000s, they said that it replicates or certainly looks a lot like the carbon trim that covered the steering column. We did a little bit of, investigating, and the person that had this trim and had the information was certainly credible. And I guess by one way or another had a direct involvement with FTR3 when it was converted to a ride car back in the early 2000s. Unfortunately, this person was a long way from us, and there was really only one way to make sure that if it was the original trim, that we could get our hands on it. So we decided to jump in the car over the weekend, make a seriously long road trip in a short amount of time so we could have a look at the trim. And if it was the real deal, it would certainly add a lot of authenticity and accuracy to the restoration of FTR3. This is how it all played out. Good morning, everyone. It's about 4 o'clock in the morning. Time for a little road trip. Nothing like an early start for a Saturday morning. So as you can see there, we made it back in one piece, and the parts were actually what we were looking for, which is incredibly exciting, almost too good to believe. Now, you would have seen there, had some podcasts playing in the ute as well during the trip. V8 Sleuth's latest podcast with Dean Canto actually goes through a little bit of information. Now, I won't tell you exactly what it says, but it goes through with Dean Canto that he was in line to join FTR in 2001, and which would have seen him potentially drive this car. And if you go back to the previous podcast, it was a similar story with Cam McLean. So if you do, obviously you're a podcast fan and you want to, get some history on FTR and this chassis, it's well worth a listen. Now, getting back to these cars and these parts that we've been able to secure. So we made the trip and we're able to get a little bit of background information on this car as well as some of these parts. Now, how these parts, ended up in this loft and with this person is this car, when it was finished with ProDrive, they actually purchased it and were involved in it, in converting it to a BA ride car. Now, the car itself was purchased from ProDrive in late 2003, and it was purchased after, or its last race was after the Eastern Creek round in 2003 with David Besnard behind the wheel. At the end of the Eastern Creek round, Glenn Seaton got his BA, so David Besnard moved into FTR4, which is an AU, and FTR3 became redundant. It was actually stripped down fairly considerably, and then it got purchased by this person who went on to convert it to a BA to be used as a ride car. Now, the car itself was presented at the time exactly as you'd see it in these photos. They even had Besnard's name on the side, FPR down the side, and they're actually, or FPV I should say, down the side. They're able to replicate the Falcon head and everything on the side of the car when it was built into a BA. Now, when the car was built into the BA, they stripped all the internals out of the car, and a lot of the carbon trims and the new dashboard that was installed made this console piece here redundant, and that's what pricked up our attention when we were contacted. That piece there, as you can see, is custom made, and it's seriously difficult to replicate without a mold. Now, what else we managed to get our hands on, just to quickly show you. So there's some wheel nuts and bits and pieces, which I'll go through in a second, but there's also this piece here, which is marked FPR3, not FTR3, so I'm not sure whether FPR had their own designated chassis number for this car at the time. But what this is, if we come over here, it's just the backing plate for the fuel filler. So you can see there it all lines up with that. This being a Gibson rear quarter panel, it may have been slightly different to FTR obviously for the size point, but we won't be able to use this because the 2000 and 2001 specification, certainly for Bathurst in 2000, they had the single fuel filler. So they had one filler on the left, one filler on the right. So one was used as a vent, one was used as a filler, where this system here is the Siamese, so they were right next to each other. That was in 2003 onwards, I believe. So we're not going to be able to use that, but the person that had this stuff was kind enough to donate it to the cause. So yeah, we're really appreciative of their support, and we'll certainly repay the favour once the car's all back together. Now, one other note here, there's some wheel nuts and bits and pieces, which we've obviously covered them in previous videos, but there is a difference. Now, somebody with a lot more knowledge than me will be able to explain why, but there's different styles of wheel nuts here. Now, I haven't actually seen that style before. Not too sure whether it's earlier, later, or what the story is. But if we come back here a little bit, there are some markings on them. If I can get the camera to focus. It looks like a H or an A. I don't know whether it's a Harrop marking or what the story is, but I'll be interested if anyone knows what they are. Certainly reach out and let us know. So basically that's what we ended up with. It was a heck of a long way to drive, but well and truly worth it. Now, getting back to this trim. So given that we now have the storyline and we're able to link up where it came from, how they ended up with it, it's definitely off FTR3 and it's the original trim. Now, obviously they only made a handful of these. You could argue there was only 4 made custom for these chassis, and obviously chassis 1, 2 and 4 still have them installed. 3 doesn't, which we're looking at now, and obviously that's now the trim for it. Now, one other piece that's really cool, if I excuse the shonky camera work. So you'll see we've got the dash just sitting in there. Now, you look at the steering column and everything there. We weren't too sure originally what this little tab here was on the dashboard. As you can see, it's been riveted on. It's certainly something that's been added at a later date, and it was completely redundant, like this bracket, when the car had the later model dashboard in it. Now, if we grab this trim that we picked up over the weekend, you can see there, that actually supports this whole steering column trim. So if we come back, you can see there it fits perfectly, and it's exactly, if we go and overlay this photo over the top, it's exactly as it was in 2000 and 2001. So it's exactly what we've been looking for. And what the really cool piece is, and I guess what really cements that it's the original, if we take this off, and this hasn't been with this car for over 20 years, you look on the inside, it's got the witness mark on it where it was sitting over 20 years ago. Now, as exciting as this is, unfortunately it's not all there. So you can see there's a bottom section that screws on. Now that appears to be, well, it is missing. We don't have that. So we are going to need to try and find the original mold, or at least get something to copy so we can get it made. But certainly this top section, to have that in our possession, knowing that it is original, is invaluable to the car and the restoration. And now we can set about trying to work out how it was all mounted. Obviously we've got the spring tab at the back, which holds the back of it in place. But in here there's 2 screws. So, and that at the moment just goes into fresh air. So if we have a look underneath it, it's probably a bit hard to show you on the camera, but you can see where those screw holes are. There's nothing in here. So was obviously a bracket or something that went around the steering column, and that was how that was all mounted up. So we'll need to fabricate up something on that to get it back to as close as it was when it was original, all the shift lights are gone, or the warning lights, whatever they were at the time. We'll need to get those put back in. So that does mean that there's going to be a lot of wiring that's got to happen to this car. There was obviously a lot more changed, and after speaking to this person over the weekend, there was a lot changed electronically in the car. So there's going to be a lot we're going to have to do to get that back to period correct as well. So as exciting as all that is and picking up that trim, that's about it for this week. I didn't think it was much point in filming me driving a ute for hours on end and sharing that with you. So realistically, by the time I got back to the workshop, put this video together, that's been about it. And I've got to go back to work next week, unfortunately. So we'll keep you in the loop as we go. We've had a new set of belts arrive for the Super Cheap Auto Falcon. That's pretty well right to go, bar a few little tidy up jobs on ducting and airboxes and that. So we'll keep you in the loop on this car. Obviously, we'll start to reach out to some drivers and that shortly and work on getting it back on track, which we're really excited about. And also FTR3, we'll keep pushing on with this car and we'll keep you in the loop as we go on that. So just wanted to say a massive thank you to the guys that helped us with the trim and the parts over the weekend, and that reached out to us to offer their support. We genuinely appreciate it, and obviously we don't expect anything for nothing, but for them to donate those old parts back to the car, we genuinely appreciate. So we'll make sure we have a square up in the future on that one. So thank you very much, and if you've got any questions, let us know, and as soon as there's something else to report, you'll be the first to know about it. Thanks again.